Casey Hines, your mayor, and welcome to Eye on Piqua. Today we are going to visit with Aaron Morrison, our Code Compliance Officer here in the city of Piqua, and talk a little bit about what his job entails. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of before you got to Piqua?
Well, thanks for having me on today. A little bit about myself is I grew up in Darke County, went to Arcanum High School, graduated high school and proceeded my education at Sinclair, and got a degree in architectural technology and as well as construction estimating and civil engineering.
So you come with a lot of experience.
Yes.
Bringing it to this job. And I know that you have worked in a variety of some other places before the city of Piqua, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I was with the Miami County Engineer's Office for 12 years. And I also did a part-time stint at Lowe's Home Improvement.
Oh, excellent. You've been here for almost 3 years now, right?
Yeah, coming up on 3 years. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, we are very lucky to have him, believe it or not. Well, and you know, it's been such a huge job for code enforcement here in our city. When Aaron came, we did not have another person in this position. We had a private company that was doing it, but not as much as what you are doing, kind of hitting things that needed to be hit. But you really have been working on the outsides of the city and kind of slowly moving in. And it's a big job. It really is.
It is. We've driven a lot of the main corridors. Some of the neighborhoods, and then just taking complaints from citizens and different departments throughout the city. And so, yeah, we got a lot, but we're making progress.
We are making progress. We are making progress. You know, and I did some field trips the past couple weeks with third graders from Spring Creek in Washington, and we were talking about a variety of things in the city. And one of the things we were talking about was code enforcement. And so I told them, you know, what do you think would happen if we didn't have code enforcement here in our city?
Yeah, I mean, the main purpose of code enforcement is to look out for the welfare and safety of the citizens. And without that, our city's not going to be as beautiful, and things, will kind of go downhill from there. So.
And not be safe for our citizens. I mean, I know we've talked about a variety of stories of some very unsafe situations that we've had to come in and help the people realize those are unsafe because they're unsafe living situations for our citizens.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, I know that, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, we had scheduled with Positively Promoting Piqua a Fix It or Flip It workshop, and for a variety of reasons with folks trying to put that together and just numbers, we decided to put that off. But you had done a lot of work for that workshop, and so that's why I thought it would be good for us to talk today, because this is important information for our citizens to hear.
So let's talk a little bit about the department that you are in the city. You are in the development department, correct?
Right, so I'm in the development department. There is 6 of us in the development department. It's headed by Chris Schmeezing. He's the economic developer. We also have our city planner, our administrative assistant, Bethany Harp, myself, Janelle Ranley. She does like grants and things like that. And then we have our public relations and special event coordinator, Brittany Van Horn.
Right, and Janelle does the CHIP program and those kind of things for our residents that might need help with maybe some things in their house or different things like that.
Yeah, Janelle handles the CHIP program, and that's for owners or rental properties as well. So.
And can you talk a little bit about the CHIP program, and so people can come to Janelle and apply for it, because there is money available sometimes for people, is that correct?
Correct. So you can go and contact Janelle at our office, and there's a variety of different criteria that you have to meet, but it is for, like I said, homeowners or rental properties.
And it can be some assistance needed to get some of the things, like for example, if you go to somebody's home and they might have a code issue, it's possible that they might qualify for some money from that program to help correct the code issue. Is that correct?
Right. So in the program, she has a couple different scenarios, but you could do a full rehab, or you could possibly just do repairs.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a great program here in our city, and I think some people may not even know about the fact that we have that. So I'm glad to to hear that and to get a little information to our citizens. I do know that in the development department, our previous city planner, which is now our the director of the development program and economic director and community development director, Chris Schmeezing. So we're in the process of actually hiring a city planner.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
and interviews should be happening this week. So hopefully we'll have somebody on board very soon. Very important part of our city is planning and just kind of looking over the grand scheme of why we put things where they are, and why we have certain places zoned for residential, why we have them zoned for business, because obviously if you're living in a neighborhood, you don't want a business just to pop up next door. I mean, and that's one of the reasons for having a code.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to bring your business into town if you got properties that aren't up to code.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want to have your business there, and so
Right.
that's why we do our code enforcement to clean the properties up and bring in new business.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about why we need code compliance here in our community. Is there anything else about code compliance in general, or the ordinances that you want to talk about? Or
So the ordinances that we enforce are our zoning code, which was adopted in 1930.
wow.
It was the last time it was updated was 1996. So along with our zoning code and our International Property Maintenance Code, that was from 2003. Both of those are the codes that we enforce throughout the city. But we are actually in the process of updating our code and our property maintenance code, and you can hear more about this if you go. I think it's on the website, codepiqua.com, and it's our where we're updating our building code and residential subdivision regulations. So.
And we've been meeting about our Code Piqua program for, I want to say 6 months, if not longer.
It's been a while, yeah. So
we've had some community gatherings where the public has been invited to come in and look at some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that we're looking at doing. And so we've had a lot of public input in this process as we've kind of looked at our code and how we need to enhance it. Because obviously it's, nothing, with something like this, there's always, as you move through the years, you need to enhance it because things change and regulations change and different things like that.
well, along with updating our codes through Code Piqua, it will also create a new transportation plan, and that'll help too to eliminate some of the truck traffic that we don't need throughout the city. So.
And I know with some of the Code Piqua meetings that I went to, the transportation was a big item of conversation because people don't want semis driving through their neighborhood or through the main part of downtown, and just trying to figure out how to get our semis to where they need to go, or through town if they need to go to Greenville or onto Urbana or Versailles or whatever, but to do it in such a way that we get them off of our main thoroughfares and in some other areas. So I know that that's part of what they're looking at, because we talked about a variety of options and possibilities for that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, I know that we have a large city. We have a lot of land to cover, a lot of houses, a lot of businesses to cover. So the areas that you've kind of hit to date, and like I said, you've been here for almost 3 years, but there's a lot to cover. So.
There is, and like I said before, our first priority is, complaints or that we get from the police department or fire department or citizens. We try to look at those issues first, and then we will get out and drive the streets. We've worked on the main thoroughfares throughout the city, Ash Street, Main Street, Broadway, Sunset, Park High. And then along with, we've done Candlewood subdivision, and it's never ending. And, we're one person and one department, but we're getting there.
You're getting there. Yep. So thinking about the process as you find a violation, what's the process that happens at that point?
So typically, if it's a minor violation, a business has a sign on the sidewalk or out in the public right of way, or something really small, some garage sale signs that you shouldn't have on telephone poles. We'll try to do a courtesy stop, a courtesy phone call, just something very minor. Hey, can you take your signs down or move your sign, or just take care of this violation. But if it's something more than that, or we get to looking and it's quite a few violations, first off we'll send a violation notice, and depending on what the violation is, it'll have a time frame to get that violation fixed. And if it's, paint your house, do some concrete, we understand you can't do it all at once. And we're very easy to work with.
Especially in weather.
And weather, and especially this year, we can work with you on your time frame. As long as we're seeing progress and, you keep us up to date what's going on. After the first violation, if everything's not completed and we feel you've exceeded the time frame, then we'll send out a final notice. And it's basically resending the original notice along with a paper we call our statement of intent, where we try to come up with a agreed due date that works for the resident as well as us. And then sometimes we get into a little more bigger issues where it's health and safety issues, and we got to condemn a property. And that kind of follows the same steps, but when we condemn the property, we give them 48 hours to get out of the house, because usually it's a safety issue, no running water, no heat, something's about to collapse, something like that. And then we'll pick up from there and do the final notice. But the condemned properties, we like to try to see things moving along a lot faster. And once we reach those points, if we have to, we'll send out a letter from our city law director. And that's kind of our last chance to work with you. And if it goes beyond that, it's more than likely going to end up in courts, which we don't want to do.
Which we really don't want to do, you're right. But there's a lot of steps before that even happens of being able to work with the citizen and whatever the issue is that's going on in their house. I know I want to touch on a little bit about the number of cases we have, but I want to go back to something you said, because I did not know this, that we have an ordinance about garage sale signs.
Yes, we do.
And so there's a couple things that you can come by the development office and you can pick up. I know there's a sheet on garage sales, and there's a couple other sheets on some different ordinances that we typically run into as citizens that we don't know. I did not know that I couldn't go and take my garage sale signs and put them up on telephone poles. I didn't know that I couldn't take them and put them up in the right-of-way coming up and down Sunset Avenue. But in reality, we can't do that. So can you talk just a teeny bit about where we can put a garage sale sign?
Sure.
Because I know that what happens is people then take them down because they shouldn't be there. So.
Right. Well, and that's one thing. Garage sale signs are expensive. And especially if you got quite a few of them up. So what we don't allow is what we call directional signs, is directing people to your garage sale. And usually people will have them, like you said, on the telephone poles or in the right-of-way out by the sidewalk. You're not allowed to have those. You are allowed to have a garage sale sign on your property where the sale is taking place. You can possibly have more than one depending on how your property is laid out. Like if you live on a corner, you could have one on each side that fronts a street. But typically it's just one sign per where the sale is happening.
And let me ask a question, because where I live, people don't drive. I live in a cul-de-sac, so it dead ends. So if I had a neighbor who was on a corner of, let's say, South Street or something like that, that had a lot of traffic, if they put my sign in their yard with my address on it, would that be okay?
Yeah, if you have permission from a family member, friend, neighbor, whoever, and as long as it's out of the right of way and behind the sidewalk, and there's only one sign at that property, yeah, you can have it.
Okay, because I was gonna say that's a way so people can know where to go to get to that. So,
But they can't be having a garage sale at the same time.
exactly,
So,
because
yeah.
it gets confusing at that point. Or put it on social media or in the paper or whatever. I mean, there's
Right.
a variety of ways to get that information. And I know that a lot of neighborhoods will hold a garage sale the entire neighborhood, and so they know that, you know, this is the Park Ridge garage sale weekend, or this is the Deerfield garage sale weekend, or whatever. And so I think there are some parts of our Indian Ridge, I think, does that as well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a great way to get your neighbors out talking to each other, and you get a lot of people walking through. So that's kind of another issue. But I wanted to hit on that because that was new information to me. Other than the garage sale, are there other things that people typically would come by your office for that you've got some information right there to hand them?
Yeah, we got what we call just like a one-page flyer type thing for swimming pools.
Yes, yes.
Because there's quite a few different codes for swimming pools depending on the type of pool it is. Another one would be signage, you know, presidential signs and things like that.
In election signs.
Yeah.
Yep. And we have an election coming up in November. For 3 of our ward seats are up. So
Right.
yeah. And fencing and things like that too. Is there any type of any information, or is it just something that you come up and ask for that and then they'll give it to you?
Okay, so yeah, you need permits for quite a few things, and you know, fencing we don't require a permit for, but we have regulations. So the best thing to do is check with us before you do anything. We got a pretty good what we call a citizen's guide on our website that kind of tells what type of permits are required, and just some brief descriptions and things like that.
So that'd be a great place for citizens to look before you put a shed on your property or before you dig for a fence or whatever, because you don't want to put all that money into that and then have to move it. So.
Right.
Okay, well, let's get back to some of the stuff that we've been talking about. Your property maintenance cases. So let's, and I think this will really help our citizens to hear the number that we've had and the percentage that have been resolved and kind of where we are on that.
Okay, so we've been enforcing our property maintenance codes since about the end of June 2016 and up until current, and we currently have 905 cases. 634 of those are actually closed and have been resolved.
And that's 70% right
Yes,
there. So.
yeah. And we've dismissed like 9 of those. That's where we get a complaint or someone calls about something, we'll go out and take a look at it, and it's not really an issue. And currently we have 262 open cases, which is only 29%.
Of the ones that have been submitted. So.
Right.
Okay.
Of those 262, their first violation notice. We have 13 condemned properties, which could be a health safety issue or a house that caught fire, things like that. And then we have 128 cases that are under final notice. 54 that we've sent a letter from the law director, so we're kind of getting to the end of the road with those. And unfortunately, we have 36 that are in court.
Okay, so 36. So 14% of the 905 that have been submitted, 36 that are actually made it to the court place. But thinking about as I have, and with my walks with the mayor, and I have been in different parts of our community. We do, and I will think citizens would agree with this. We do have a large number of houses that are abandoned in our community, and so part of it is hitting those and trying to find who the owner is,
Right.
and is it bank owned, and so there's a lot of legality because people say, well, why can't you just go in there and take that house down? but there's so much legality behind that, because we can't just go in and do that if it's still attached to somebody or a bank owns it or whatever. So there's a lot of work that our law director is doing, trying to find that out and to do that history and that background of trying to find out who to connect with.
Correct.
Yeah, so, okay. So, what are the top 5, it's kind of like the David Letterman, the top 10, but what are the top 5 property maintenance violations that you find here in our city?
So the top 5 would be peeling paint or unmaintained like exterior surfaces. So peeling and flaking paint, a vinyl sided house that has moss and mildew on the side because the sun doesn't hit it. It just needs a simple power washing. That's the number 1. Number 2 is visual blight, and visual blight is personal belongings, stuff, trash, construction materials, construction debris, auto parts.
Things left on front porches.
Containers of clothes or whatever, and a lot of times this stuff is on the front porch or in the yard. Our third one is exterior walls, which would be like rotting siding, wood siding, or vinyl siding that's blowing off a house. Things like that. That's our third one. And then the fourth one of the top 5 would be unmaintained vegetation, overgrowth of trees, that are hanging over the sidewalk, or weeds, overgrowth that's growing over your fence into your neighbor's yard. That's another biggie. And then finally, roofs and drainage. So bad roofs or missing gutters and downspouts. Those are the top 5. And another one I can think of is vehicles that are parked on grass or in their front yard, or an old vehicle that doesn't run. Oh, let's just put it in the backyard. You can't park or store vehicles on your yard or in grass.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I know that it just left me what I was going to say. I can't remember what I was going to say. I was thinking about the vehicles and the different things. Well, it'll come to me. So I know we talked a little bit about the CHIP program. Is there anything else that you want to mention about the CHIP program, or just kind of for our citizens to know if they need to? Obviously, they can get in touch with Janelle at the city to get that information.
So yeah, like we said, we have our CHIP program, and it can be an owner rehab or rental rehab, or just repair assistance, and you can contact Janelle at the city. But the CHIP program is Miami County wide, and it's with the city of Piqua. It's a partnership between us and Miami County. But if you have an elderly neighbor or somebody like that, or your parents get a violation and they're, how am I going to repair this or that? We actually have a couple of different programs throughout the city of retired guys and people just looking for stuff to do that can possibly help out, and they can also contact Janelle. One of those being PNIC, and another one our HELP program. And those are just a group, like I said, a group of volunteers that can come out and help out residents with various issues.
So what does PNIC stand for?
PNIC is our Piqua Neighborhood Improvement Association.
Okay, yeah. And I know that they've done, Candlewood especially, they've done a lot of work. I think about that entranceway going into Candlewood, and, it was the neighbors that kind of took that on to mow it and to take care of it and different things. But, being a good neighbor, just lending a hand to your neighbors if you notice that they might need some help around the house or something like that is really about being a good citizen. And I know with our HELP program, since I've been affiliated through serving as a ward commissioner, but even before that, we have some great volunteers here in our community who have helped, whether it's painting a shed or doing some electrical work or whatever, that have volunteered to help some people to get over some of these issues that you have addressed through code compliance. your own neighbors are able to go out and kind of help you do that. So.
Yeah, they do a great job, and there's actually a PNIC representative pretty much in every neighborhood. So yeah, if you can contact Janelle at our office, she can lead you down the right path.
That's great. I remembered what I was going to mention before. I think I got lost in the weeds is what happened. But I was thinking about, and I know this is more of a health department, they're the ones that get it, but the high grass violations, we have a lot of those as well in the city of people who are not mowing their grass or people who have abandoned homes that are not taking care of it.
Right, yeah, and there's quite a few of those, and it's starting to come up on grass season, and that'll be a biggie. And typically we have one person that just drives around and looks for high grass. So.
Yeah.
And the high grass rule is 8 inches.
8 inches, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful to know that 8 inches after that, it's considered to be high grass. So,
correct, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, we've talked a lot about, and the reality is, this is a lot of rules, a lot of laws or whatever, and again, it can be frustrating for our citizens, I know, but without the rules and laws, what happens is things get unsafe, as you said,
right.
And they can get really crazy, and you can have something popping up next to the house that you've lived in for 55 years and put your whole your heart and soul into, and all of your money, and then all of a sudden something moves next door that just totally affects the equity in your house. And
right.
So, our code is needed. But we do have a lot of success stories that Aaron has. I know just in conversation with you over the past couple years, people who have said, yeah, I know I needed to take care of this. I was waiting, I wasn't able to do it before, and you've been able, there's been quite a few of those how many was it? 697 or whatever it was, that top number, no, 906. There's been a lot of success stories out there.
There has been, and that old house that you had to look at in your neighborhood for years, and it's finally come down, and now a lot of times you don't even remember that it was there. You're looking at something else that's down the street. So it's good. It's happening.
Well, and it's exciting to see, because I know as one neighbor starts to take care of their house and their property, it starts to have a domino effect with the neighborhood. And we've actually had, didn't we have somebody get a Resident Pride Award recently that, is that correct, that had a code compliance issue or not?
Yeah, we've given out several, I believe, Resident Pride Awards, where people have had issues, and the person, didn't have a lot of money, and they were able to get some help from some family and friends, and they came in and painted their house and ended up getting the award.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right, well, I know we've got some pictures that I think we'll put up on the screen of some of our successes. There's quite a few pages here of some beautiful successes of just people loving their property here in Piqua. And not just residential property, but business property as well. So we talked about things that permits are needed for new construction, sheds, decks, permanent swimming pools. Those are the ones that are in the ground, correct? Or the above ground
Or above
ones?
ground
Okay.
as well, yeah.
The ones that are permanent that stay through the year.
Right, so if it stays longer than 90 days or 3 months, then you need a permit for it. You can't have the inflatable like Walmart type pool and leave that up all year round. That's what we consider a temporary pool, and it needs to come down.
So if I have an inflatable pool, I can leave it up for 3 months as long as I take it down at the end of the summer.
Correct.
Okay, so I don't need a permit for that. And then obviously sidewalks and driveways. Some people don't realize that the sidewalk out in front of your house is your responsibility.
Yes.
And so that's one thing to be aware of. And then if you're opening a new business, obviously there's a permit for that as well.
Right.
So we've got some final information I think we want to share with our citizens, the website for the city, and then doing business. Are these things they can click on in the website?
So yeah, this is where you can go to find the Citizen's Guide. So if you're planning on doing that project coming up this spring, shed or pool or whatever, and you're not quite sure what permits you need or need a little information to start off to kind of get the ball rolling in your head, you can check out the Citizen's Guide on our website.
Okay.
And then if you have any more questions, feel free to contact our office or the City of Piqua Engineer's Office, because you'll get a sidewalk permit from the engineer's office, and as well as the Miami County Department of Development for permits from them as well.
Okay, and I know that we're going to put your information up for our citizens to see that. And I know that I would say that if you have any questions here in the city, you know, one of the best places to start is the city manager's office. And then from there, they can direct you to, whether it's the development office, code compliance, engineering office, health department. But the city manager's office many times is a great place to start, because they'll kind of get you where you need to go. Well, I really appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy, and you're probably going to leave here right now, despite how wonderful you look with your tie on today, Aaron.
Thanks.
But leave here right now and hit some places in the city that you're continuing to look at. But I thank you for your time. I thank you for all that you do here in our city to help with just keeping us beautiful and keeping us moving forward.
Well, thank you for having me. And like we said, it's a big project, and it takes all of us to help clean the city up and beautify it. And it's only helping all of us in the future, and you know, our property values and keeping everybody safe. So.
That's right. And if you're interested in where we're moving forward with our code, again, code Piqua. Is it .com or .org? I can't remember. It's code Piqua. I'm sure that we'll be able to put that up on the screen as well. But code Piqua is a great place just to be involved as we continue to move our code forward for our city. So thanks again, and we will see you on the next episode of Eye on Piqua.